So I was just reading for your resume and I was really quite tired. It's very long and very, you've done a lot of things in your life. And really judging by that, you should be about 80 years old. But,
Yeah.
but
Um,
we're but you're not. But we're here today to talk about your latest project, the Queer Theatre Project. So tell us
yeah.
about.
It's I think it might be the proudest thing I've ever done. And it's connected to um it's connected to where my ego brought me.
Mhm,
You're right, I have done a lot. I've done an awful lot. I've
mhm,
worked with all of my heroes, whether that be the playwrights that um I used to read and hide their plays under my bed before I came out that I was gay when I was a 13-year-old kid on a council estate in Dorset. All the actors that I loved growing up are all in my phone book now. And you would think I'd be happy, right?
I must say it's a very impressive list of actors and directors and that. But
But
anyway,
but the problem was is, you know, um, I had a profound problem with drugs and alcohol.
mhm,
As a and I've really come to realize that success doesn't bring you happiness. It
yeah.
really doesn't. Um, and I have had a hole in my soul as a gay man my whole life that I've tried to fill with awards and lovers and drink and drugs. This is
Well,
what you're meant to do.
this was in my notes, but I wasn't going to bring it up. You're very
Oh,
congratulations, number one, and you're very brave to share that with the world because so many of us have some kind of demons. We haven't lived this long without having demons, especially because we are, I'm older than you, a generation where it was still tough to come out. So
yeah.
you changed my notes enormously. I was going to get to the very end. But you have turned it around and you've got this wonderful project. So let's start off now with you telling us what the Queer Theatre Project is and what we should know about it.
And I realized that I have always been at my happiest, whether I'm in a gay club or a gay pub or a
Mhm.
gay theatre company or a gay company of actors telling our stories, not having to be anything else, just being authentically me
Mhm.
doing that kind of work.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, well, maybe I could create a sort of LGBTQ plus theatre company
Yeah.
because it's not really one that exists in the UK that anyone
Mhm.
knows of. There used to be places like the Gay Sweatshop, but that's kind of disappeared. And so I thought, well, if I was going to call it anything, what would I call it? I'd call it Queer Theatre, but that name had to be taken. Oh, wait, the name's available on Company's House.
Oh, really?
And then I thought, well, the domain has to be taken, right?
Mhm.
Queertheatre.co.uk. That has to be taken. That's a popular. Oh, no, it's available for me to buy. And I like to think that was the universe's way of going, go on, kid.
But from where I'm sitting this side of the Atlantic, this side of the pond, queer theatre in London and recently in Edinburgh seems extremely healthy. You seem to, I mean,
Sure.
it keeps two of my guys busy all the time, far more so, I have you looked at, than places like New York, which is a surprise and a real joy. Is
Hmm.
that the case, or am I imagining that?
All I know is that when it comes to LGBTQ plus stories,
Mm.
seldom is it over what 5-10% of the stories that we see in society.
True.
So we're always going to be in a deficit. And also,
Choice.
I'm a lot of people have said to me, I've had some attacks on social media. Can you believe there's some nasty people on Twitter? Did you
Yes,
know that?
yes, yes, yes.
And they said, it made me laugh actually. They went, yeah, well, from Barry, all the numbers or whatever his name
Mhm.
was. Yeah, just because theatre's famously had a problem with representing gay people. And I thought that was quite funny. But then I thought to myself, but I'm not trying to keep up with straight counterparts. I'm just telling queer stories. And if an audience wants to see it, great. And if they don't, then we won't have to do it. But I think as part of the productions that I eventually want to mount, what I really want to be doing is, yes, the acting classes.
Mhm.
I also want to be doing a queer scratch night in an LGBTQ plus venue where we explore poetry and we
Yeah.
explore comedy and drag and maybe burlesque. And again, find a space to look at the variety of different performances that our community breeds very healthily, both emerging and forgotten talent.
Mhm.
I want to be launching a queer playwriting festival as of next year.
Mhm.
Um, I have a podcast called the Show People Podcast, which stopped during the pandemic. And I'm delighted to say that.
Like life did in general.
Hey, say again.
Like life did in general. But if you go and look at your site, you can go and relive the ones you did, correct?
Exactly. I mean, that was several days worth of work, because after the pandemic, my original company, which was called Arian Productions, like it just lost all of its money whilst we tried to sustain everything. And, so this is a rebirth of Arian. It's queer theatre. And it's got a very specific mission. It's got legacy things like the Show People podcast, which will come back, which I'm really delighted. I think you're the first person that I've shared that with. That's actually not announced to the press yet, so you're the first to hear that that's coming back. And I'm also delighted to say that it will be coming back as a live show at the Nell on Old Drury, which is the pub opposite Theatre Royal Drury Lane.
All right.
So it'll be, again, I'm trying to support queer-owned businesses and businesses associated with supporting the arts. And the Two Brewers has always done that, and the Nell will absolutely be doing that. I don't know. I just want to get queer performers together and nurture them. And with all the money that I make from these endeavors, that's what I then want to not be beholden on an arts council or investors. That's when I can choose, actually, let's put this show on in this queer space or in this theatre. And let's have autonomy about the stories that we tell, and not be beholden on anyone.
Because you're helping us take control, which is the most important thing when we're part of our community. We can have more details at the end of this and where people can connect.
Thank you.
And is there an email system where we can stay in touch? People?
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a mailing list. So again, if you go to queertheatre.co.uk, you'll find all our social networks. You'll find our support page where donations can be made, and you'll also find our mailing list. I mean, my hope would be that in 5 years' time we'll be sat down and you'll be in the Queer Theatre offices. But right now it's me, it's a laptop, it's a group of friends, and that feels like activism again, right? A group of us coming together in a gay bar trying to tell our story. That feels just as 80s as it is now.
If you don't live in London, you're about to visit, do at the very least go to the Two Brewers.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a traditional British gay pub.
I have to say that the support that I've had from the Two Brewers has been absolutely wonderful. And I think some actors might think acting classes in a gay club. Let me just explain that we take over the back club room, which is entirely ours. There's loads of nooks and crannies to do work in, and a great big playing space. There's incredible lighting in there. There's a stage, and I think it's really important to remember that it was established in the early 80s. Some of the greatest performers, whether that be drag or cabaret, activism groups, sports groups, cultural groups, throughout the decades have walked through those doors just to be who they are with people like themselves. And it's a real honor to be part of that history in 2024. And there are times when I lean up on that bar and I'm drinking my Coke Zero, where I think to myself, God, how lucky I am to be a man with HIV nowadays leaning up against this bar. Because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that was a different story.
And with queer places closing so rapidly around the world, it's great to see that existing, and great to see that you're making good use of it. So thank you for talking to us today. We're going to run the details now, and maybe we'll speak to you next year so you're getting on. Thanks.
Anytime you want, Roger. Thank you for looking. Thank you for showing interest. Thank you.